Hi everyone, my name's Amber and this is my channel, Destination Nurse. I am about to start my first semester of nursing school to become an RN in a couple of weeks, and I am taking you on my journey. Today we're going to be talking about some tips to get into nursing school. I was accepted on my first try, and different schools have different requirements, and they also have different application cycles and certain amounts of students that they will take at each application cycle. So this is just for the ones that are close to me, so just keep that in mind. I am in the state of Florida. I will be attending a local college that does offer both 2 and 4-year degrees. But I also will include some information for the state college that's not too far from me. So first off, my very first tip to get into nursing school, you definitely want to focus on getting good grades in the prerequisites that the school requires. What I didn't really know at first is it's not necessarily a cumulative grade point average that they will take into account. For the school that I'm going to, they took into account only the prerequisites. So for instance, the school that I'm going into, the only prerequisites that you had to have were Anatomy and Physiology 1, the lecture in the lab, microbiology lecture in lab, general psychology, college algebra, and that's it. So those were the only prerequisites that were required to get into the nursing program. Now with those prerequisites, you had to have at least a 2.5 GPA in those, or a grade of C or higher. Obviously the higher the better, and that first tip is that you need to have a really good focus on the prerequisites to get into your program. So look ahead to what those prerequisites are going to be if you know you want to go into nursing school, and make sure that you really focus on getting good grades there, because those will really help you. So for instance, I had A's and B's in all of those prerequisites. So I was more competitive, with those. Obviously more A's is better. Now for my school that I'm going to, you also had to have an overall cumulative GPA of 2.0. So keep that in mind, although those classes that you take cumulatively that aren't part of the prerequisites are not considered for the program. So you had to have a higher GPA in the prerequisites. So that's for my local college. So for the state college that's close to me, I'm going to read off because there's some options that they give you. Now for this one, you have to have at least a 3.0 to get into nursing school with these prerequisites. So you have a choice of 3 credits in social and behavioral sciences, so anything with a PSY, so like psychology, SOP, or SYG prefix. You had to have 3 credits in a physical or biological science, so anything with a BSc, so like anatomy and physiology, or with a CHM, so chemistry, or PHY, so physics, I believe. And then you had to have 4 credits of Anatomy and Physiology 1, so that's going to be your lecture and lab component. You had to have 4 credits of Anatomy and Physiology 2, the lecture and lab credit. You had to have 4 credits of microbiology, so that's lecture and lab as well. And you also had to have 3 credits in statistics and 3 credits in human growth and development, or developmental psychology, and then 3 credits in human nutrition. So quite a bit more requirements to get into the state college, and a higher GPA requirement. Now, my local college, 172 students are accepted per year, not per semester, but that is the limited access. I couldn't find information on how many students the state college will actually accept per year, so keep that in mind. I do know that the state college that's close by is very selective, and I want to say that I saw something like 39% of applicants are accepted. So quite a bit harder to get into the state college. You have to be a lot more competitive. So that is my number one tip, is focus on your prerequisites. So you want to be as competitive as possible. Now, my number two tip, you definitely want to study for the T's or the HESI 2, depending on which college you want to go to. Now, this is for Florida colleges, so I'm not sure what other states require, but the T's is the test of essential academic skills, and that encompasses 172 questions, I believe, that cover the subjects of math, science, reading, and English language. So it's about a 3.5-hour test, and that's the one that I took. And I did okay. I want to say I did a little bit better than the average. I want to say the average was a few points lower than what I achieved on that exam, but definitely put some time into taking that exam because it is very difficult. I want to say that I could not find anything anywhere about someone who got higher than like a 92%. So that kind of tells you how difficult it is. And they really say that you should spend about 6 weeks of intensive studying for that exam, just because it encompasses so many different subjects. So you may be like excellent in one subject or two subjects, but maybe not 4. So any of those areas that you might struggle in normally, you definitely want to pay some closer attention to those. So that's for my local college. Now, for the state college, they require the HESI A2. The HESI A2 is the Health Education Systems Incorporated test for admissions. They also have an exit exam. This is the A2 for admissions. This one covers a lot more subjects, and it is twice as long. So there's 326 questions. It's about a 4-hour test. I don't know if it is as detailed as the T's, because the T says it's a 3.5-hour exam for 172 questions, right? 170 questions. And the HESI A2 is a 4-hour exam, supposedly, for 326 questions. So I'm not sure how that works out. I know I had to do some, calculations and everything on the T's exam. I'm not sure if you have to do that type of thing or if they're a little bit more basic of questions on the HESI A2. But so I'm going to read this off because there are so many subjects that the HESI A2 covers. So you have reading, comprehension, vocabulary, grammar, math, biology, chemistry, anatomy and physiology, and physics. So those are all the subjects that the HESI A2 covers, and it is a requirement for the state college close to me. So that is my number 2 tip, is to make sure to study for those exams. Give yourself a good 1.5 to 2 months worth of solid study time to prepare for those, because a lot of times the colleges will take into account obviously your overall GPA, but especially your prerequisite GPA and your scores on the T's exam or the HESI A2. So those are the 2 big components of getting into nursing school, and those are my top 2 tips to get into nursing school, is focus on your prerequisites and make sure you study for the HESI A2 or the T's exam, whichever college you want to go to. You can take both if you want to, it doesn't hurt, and then you'll have a little bit more options. But again, now you're doing twice the work of studying, so you're going to have to weigh the pros and cons of that. So those are the top 2. Moving on to my number 3 tip for getting into nursing school is be polite. So make sure you use your best manners when you're talking to any of the personnel, any of the staff at the college, and especially in the nursing department. You want to make sure that you stand out as someone that they want to know more about, that they want to have as a student at their school. So, and it makes a difference, honestly. So if you have any correspondence via email, make sure that you, write, a proper email, address the person you're talking to, give a good, sincerely, whatever your name is at the bottom, use complete sentences, use capitalization, check your grammar, all of that stuff. Be as polite as you can, because if you come off, in a bad way to the college or to the nursing staff, it could make a big difference. So that is my number 3 tip to get into nursing school. All right, my number 4 tip to get into nursing school is double check that you've completed all of the requirements. Now, for every nursing school, there's always a list of requirements that you need to complete, like paying the admission fee, uploading your driver's license to show residency, giving them your residency forms, giving them all your transcripts, submitting all of your testing scores, whether it's TEAS, HESI, whatever it is. Whatever the requirements are, double check, triple check that you have completed all of them. Because if there's anything missing, you may not hear from the college that something's missing. You can call the college and double check and make sure they've received everything. You can email if there's an email available to you to double check and make sure that they've received everything, but always double check, because it could mean the difference between getting into nursing school that semester or having to reapply. And my number 5 tip for getting into nursing school is going to be make sure that you've prepared your reason for wanting to go to nursing school and for wanting to be a nurse, because some schools do require an interview, and you want to make sure to test out your interview skills. I know that there's some people on YouTube that specialize in interview skills. It could help you land a job. It could help you get into school. So if you are required to do an interview, make sure that you have some reasons why you want to do it. Line them up. If you have a whole bunch, just pick out the best ones, and you can test them on, a professional interviewer as well. But just be prepared for that. So those are my 5 tips to get into nursing school, with, of course, number 1 being to make sure that you double check all of your prerequisites and make sure that you focus on getting good grades in those. A's obviously is the best. But if you have some B's, that's okay too. Number 2, make sure that you study for the TEAS exam or the HESI A2, whichever one your school will require you to have. Give a good long time to study those and make sure that you can do well. I think you do get more than one chance usually on those. You can retake it, but after 2 attempts, some of the schools require you to wait a year or 2 years before taking them again. So don't play around with it. Make sure that you study. Number 3, be polite. Anyone you talk to at the school, anyone you correspond with via email, just make sure to be as polite as you possibly can. Be humble. Make sure that you're someone that school wants to have on their alumni, eventually, and be part of events and everything and representing their school. That's what they want. Number 4 is double check all of the requirements for the nursing school. Check your application cycles, find out when that has to be, find out when the exams have to be done. Make sure that you've dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and that you've completed all of the requirements. Double check with the school, in a polite way, just to make sure that you've done everything. And number 5, make sure you have your reasons for wanting to be in nursing school, because all of those things will come back. You will get asked. Even if you don't have an interview that's required as part of the admission process, I know when I went for my N95 fit testing and my clinical requirements appointment to turn in all of my required documents and tests and everything that we had to have once we were accepted, I know multiple people asked me why I wanted to be a nurse. So have your reasons why. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, and don't make it up. You know, be genuine, because people can see through you, you know, and it will come back to bite you. So definitely be genuine, but definitely have your reasons lined up, just in case you have an interview or when you are asked. And I hope these tips help you get into nursing school. If you have any tips that I didn't cover for getting into nursing school, please share them in the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I will be documenting my whole journey. I will be thinking of other videos that I can help other people get into nursing school or understand nursing school or follow along. So when I start my classes in a couple of weeks, I will definitely take you along as well.